So we've all been swimming in the AI hype, right? Every day there's a new headline about how it's going to change literally everything. But what if the story's a little more complicated? A new analysis is out, and it's suggesting that AI is about to hit a pretty big wall. Let's get into it.
Okay, so what we're digging into today comes from this really in-depth report by the Deutsche Bank Research Institute. And let me tell you, they did not pull any punches. They took a really close look at where AI actually is right now, and yeah, their conclusions are pretty stunning.
And boom, here it is. This is the core of their argument. The honeymoon is over for AI. I mean, you can't get much clearer than that, right? They're basically saying that the fun, exciting, anything is possible phase, yeah, that's wrapping up. And what's coming next is going to be a whole lot harder.
So, what's behind this big prediction? Well, the report says it all comes down to three huge themes that are all crashing into each other in 2026. Think of it like a perfect storm for the AI world. And we're going to break down each of these three pressures for you.
All right, first on the list, disillusionment. You know what this is. It's that feeling when the reality doesn't quite live up to the hype. And that's exactly what's happening. There's this massive and, frankly, kind of painful gap opening up between the promises of AI and what it's actually doing for most of us day to day. I love this analogy from the report because it just nails it. The hype is telling us we're getting a tractor, a total revolution. We're going from horse to machine. But for a lot of businesses, the reality is, well, it's more like they just got a better saddle for the same old horse. It's nicer, sure, it's an upgrade, but it's not the massive leap forward they were promised. But here's the crazy part, and this is why the hype is so powerful. The models themselves are incredible. I mean, look at these numbers. In lab settings, on benchmarks, the latest AIs are absolutely crushing it. They're not just matching human experts, they're beating them. So the technology itself is legitimately mind-blowing. So that begs the question, right? If the models are that good, what's the deal? Why isn't it changing everything for everyone right now? Well, the problem is, the real world is, well, it's messy. It's not a clean benchmark test. Most businesses just aren't set up for this. They don't have the clean data, they don't have the tech teams to plug it all in. And then there's this thing the report calls the jagged frontier. It's where AI is a genius at one task and a total dud at the next. It's unpredictable. And that's before you even get to the human element, actually convincing your team or your customers to trust this thing. Okay, so all those problems, the messy data, the difficult integrations, they're not just headaches. They have a real, tangible cost. And that brings us to the second big challenge, dislocation. We're talking about the insane physical and financial stress this AI gold rush is putting on, well, everything.
Just take a second and look at this number, $9 billion. That's how much cash OpenAI reportedly burned through in just 1 year. It's just a staggering amount of money to keep the lights on. And you gotta think, investors are looking at that and wondering, okay, when does this actually start making money? Because that can't last forever.
And why is it so expensive? Well, this chart tells the story. It's pure exponential demand. The amount of AI processing happening, what they measure in tokens, has gone up over 100-fold in just a year and a half. Every single click, every query, every one of those tokens costs real money and real energy to compute. And that relentless demand is pushing the global supply chain to its breaking point. We're talking about shortages of everything. The super advanced memory chips, the engineers who know how to build this stuff, even the basics, like enough electricity from the grid to power it all, and enough water to keep the data centers from melting. And here's why this really matters to you. This isn't just some Silicon Valley problem. The report makes it clear that these bottlenecks are going to trickle down. We could start seeing higher prices for things we buy every day. Your next smartphone, your laptop, even your car. They could all get more expensive because of this AI resource crunch. Okay, so we have the hype versus reality problem, and we have the resource problem. That leads us right into the third major challenge, and this one might be the trickiest: distrust. The more AI seeps into our world, the more people are getting nervous. And those anxieties are getting harder and harder to ignore. And look, there's no quicker way to lose trust than when things go wrong in the real world. The report points to this pretty wild case in the UK where a police force used an AI tool, it got something wrong, and they ended up banning a bunch of soccer fans from a match based on bad info. These are the kinds of headlines that stick with people and really, really damage public trust. And it's not just a few one-off stories. The data shows this feeling is becoming widespread. Look at the US. A clear majority, 55% of people, are now more concerned than they are excited about AI. That is a huge problem if you're trying to get everyone to adopt this new technology.
But let's be real, when we talk about distrust and fear of AI, there's one question that looms over everything else. Is a robot going to take my job? It's the number one thing people worry about.
So what's the verdict? According to the report, well, it's complicated. The data is still all over the place. There is a Stanford study that points to a real drop in jobs for recent grads in certain fields. But it's early days. The report also gives a really important warning. Watch out for what they call AI redundancy washing. That's when a company was probably going to do layoffs anyway, but now they can just blame it on AI. It's a convenient excuse. So let's pull all these threads together. You've got the hype not matching reality, the insane costs and resource drain, and this growing cloud of public distrust. You can start to see why the report is pointing to 2026 as this major turning point, a real crossroads for AI.
It's those three big pressures hitting all at once. 1. Disillusionment, the gap between the promise and the reality. 2. Dislocation, the strain on money, materials, and power grids. And 3. Distrust, the growing backlash from society and from governments. And if all that wasn't complicated enough, there's one more massive layer on top of everything: geopolitics. We're in the middle of this high-stakes AI race between the US and China, and the report highlights that China is moving fast, especially with these cheaper open-source models that are really appealing to a lot of countries.
So that leaves us with this one big, unsettling question. With all these pressures building and this intense global race heating up, what happens? Does the frantic push to win at AI mean we start cutting corners, ignoring the risks, pushing forward no matter what? And if that happens, what's the price that we all end up paying?